What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first podcast, episode 1. Woo-woo! Party time. It is Chris and Courtney here with you, and if you're listening to this, then you know the name of the podcast, and we don't yet. We are recording the very first episode with no clue what it's going to be called.
The Unnamed Podcast.
But hey, it's better to just kind of dive in and make something happen and not really know where the hell it's going, and ultimately, otherwise we never get anything done. That's basically that should be my slogan for my brand. But let's go ahead and just talk about this podcast and what it's going to be and what you can expect from it. So I am a wedding videographer, and I believe in adding value and resources wherever I can in the community that I'm trying to serve. So I want to make this podcast to provide some information on the wedding industry, wedding planning, all the things that brides and grooms could use as they are planning their wedding. And I want to provide that information from a videographer's perspective. And then Courtney has also worked in the wedding industry as well, and so she has plenty of perspective on that. And so this podcast is basically going to be the amalgamation of our knowledge plus a bunch of guests that have planned weddings or been in weddings or have heard the word wedding before. And we're going to get every perspective under the sun and more. So that is what this podcast is about. Again, we don't know the name yet. You do, because you're listening to this. So that's pretty exciting. You're in the know. How fantastic. But why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? I've done all the talking so far. So Courtney, why don't you take it away and tell us about yourself? Where are you from? Who are you? Where are you from?
Yes, I'm Courtney, and I'm from California, mostly, which is great. And additionally to all the aforementioned things and credentials you have mentioned, we are also married and have planned a wedding.
Yeah, I probably should have led with that.
So that's helpful.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Okay, and what have you, tell us, you've had quite the star-spangled career path so far, but tell us about a couple of your jobs, the more interesting ones, and tell us about the one particularly relating to the wedding industry.
Yes. None of my jobs really connect, other than they all involve customer service to one degree or another.
It's because you're so darn good at it.
Yeah. So one of my most interesting jobs was working as a mental health worker. So I worked in a residential home that housed a number of mentally ill adults, and I did it as my college internship. And my college internship was not psychology; it was youth ministry.
Classic. Yeah. Mine was music. For anyone listening, I got a music degree and then immediately went into a field where I never use it. Well, I don't never use it, but I don't use my fancy piece of paper that I got from college. But there's lots of different things that music plays a role in, especially in filmmaking, and it's been helpful when editing tracks for wedding videos, that sort of thing, and myriad other things. But go on. Tell us about your job that was in the wedding industry.
Yeah. Oh, no, but I have to give you more credit than you're giving yourself. A music degree is a pretty rigorous degree because you have to take so many classes, because all the classes for a music degree are like half a unit. So music majors take all of the classes, and so it gives you a lot of discipline.
Yes, there you go. Well, so I should be more specific, because I definitely take a lot of the stuff that I picked up in college. A lot of that has carried with me as I've gone through my various career choices and that sort of thing. But music itself, an actual music degree and notes and stuff on paper, does not come up a lot when I'm holding a camera, believe it or not.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. But tell us about your job in the wedding industry.
Yeah, so I worked in a bridal shop. It's called David's Bridal. You might have heard of it. And I worked there as a customer service representative, and then I was a lead customer service representative, and then I was their temporary operations manager. So did a lot of things. One store.
Yep.
But yes, so especially being the operations manager, I dealt with a lot more on the floor because every manager takes a shift of being the floor manager. And so there's a lot more interaction because when you're a customer service representative, you're at the front of the store and you greet everybody. So you're the first person and the last person that they see, but you're not as involved in the appointment. Whereas a manager, if you're on the floor, you get to be more involved. So I really got to see a lot of different aspects and talk to a lot of people who are planning their wedding, which was really, really cool because you have people just all across the board come in there and they just, they have a lot to share about their planning process. So I feel like I got a lot of knowledge from just talking to those people and then planning our wedding in the same space of time and kind of comparing notes with a lot of the customers. It was really cool.
Totally. As for my background, like I said, I have a music degree, and that's what I've spent most of my life doing. And then I was in I'm still in a band, but I was making a video. I was making cover videos for the lead singer and we were making them together. And we were, as I was kind of, getting more into that, I started getting more into editing. And then I had a coworker who couldn't afford a wedding videographer. And I was like, well, I've never done it. I'd love the opportunity to do it just for the experience. And then I did it. It turned out great. It was a really fun experience, and overall, I just had a really great time with it. And so I started doing it more. I started getting more and more experienced, just doing what I could. And then a couple years later, here I am. We're, just plugging right along, doing the things. And then last year, 2020, was my biggest, busiest, most successful year so far, which is pretty crazy because of all that happened in 2020. But turns out people are still willing to put on masks and social distance and still be in love and still get married despite all of the craziness. So I looked out there, love prevailed, and I didn't go without any work for a whole year. So that was nice. So now that we've kind of introed ourselves and what we're all about, I'd love to kind of intro the brand a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, a big thing that I believe in is adding value and adding just resources and whatever I can to a community that I'm trying to serve to. I don't ever want to seem like I'm just trying to salesy. I don't want to seem like I'm just out there to get your money. I'm out here to make sure. I always say that I want you to find the perfect wedding videographer that's at the price point that works for you and is exactly what you need, even if it's not me. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm happy to serve, and I believe in wedding videography so passionately because I value the one that we have. As Courtney mentioned earlier, we are married. And so a big part of why I love wedding videography so much is because I love looking back at my own video. I understand the value that I get from having that, and I will treasure that forever. And so it makes it even better, makes my job super easy because no matter how hard I work, I know it's for a good cause. I know that I'm giving people something that they'll hold on, they'll show their kids, their grandkids, their great-grandkids, and they'll look back in 50 years and they'll have nothing but a joy for the thing that they have that I was able to provide. So it really is has turned in to a calling from a hobby for me. And so that's the way I want my brand to represent, is that it's not about the dollar signs. It's not about the just the details, and it's not about the color grading and all the the fancy schmancy stuff that goes into wedding videography, but it really is all about the connection and the providing a service that's exactly what the individual needs. And so yeah, I definitely, that's why we have this podcast, is because I want to provide any resources that I can. Courtney, anything to add?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Great. She's just there to put that little bookmark on the end of my
here to help,
thing.
man.
Yep, exactly. All right, so we got a couple of questions on Instagram that we would love to answer, and we also have some frequently asked questions. So why don't we kind of dive into some of the questions we have? Hillary sent you some questions. Hillary, our friend, and they are about what?
She had a couple. She had one that was more for brides, one that was more for grooms, and then one that was in general. And I think her general one was a really good one, because I think it's really common, is she was saying, you know, how do you get everything together in the right amount of time? Is a wedding planner a must?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I remember I asked the same question when we were getting married, and we had a year-long engagement, so that was like a fair amount of time. A lot of people do shorter, I'm noticing, and I can see how that would be a question you ask, because it's really overwhelming. There's a lot of things to think about, especially if it's not something that you're used to. I happened to work in the wedding industry while we were getting married, so I had a lot of those things available to me, but for a lot of people, they're diving in with no idea what it takes to plan a wedding. So
Totally.
yeah, so what do you think about the idea of, is a wedding planner a must?
Yeah, well, it's hard to speak from experience when we didn't have one, but we were overtly blessed with the amount of people that just chipped in and just did amazing stuff. We had a friend, Hannah, who planned or decorated our reception venue, and
She like visualized the whole thing. She went in there and figured out where all the tables would go, how we could decorate it, where things would be, and it was a smaller space.
Yeah.
So it was really helpful, because I would not have come up with that without her.
I feel like our wedding story is actually kind of interesting just from a planning perspective. So what we did was super strange, and the biggest thing we knew from the very beginning was, of course, photo and video were going to be super important. Fun. I mean, I say of course, but even though I wasn't a videographer at that point, but we definitely knew that photo and video was super important, and so we didn't want that harsh midday lighting. I just finished creating a YouTube video where I mention in it that midday is like the worst time for photos and videos, and so we wanted just like nice soft lighting, like morning light, or like sunset kind of light. And so we were like, okay, well, we also don't want a huge ceremony, because we really only want the people there that are going to be the important people that are just always going to be a part of our lives. So really close friends, the wedding party, of course, and then our family, and then a few other people. We wanted people there that really just meant a lot to us. And then in the evening, we had a reception where it was like, closer to 100 people, and it was, or maybe like 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 80 people, and it was a little, we had a couple more, we were able to extend it a little bit more than just like those really, really close-knit group of people. But so we had our ceremony in the morning at a friend's property, and it was very small, it was really intimate, and it was really short and really cold. And it's funny, I say that we really wanted that morning light, but we got such a late start that we really lucked out. And even though it wasn't morning, it was still nice and shady because of the trees around, and then also it was a little overcast that day. So the lighting was gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. And then the reception was later on that night, and it was, like I said, it was bigger, and we had, all the traditional stuff, dancing and whatnot. And then basically the whole thing was that we blew all of the budget that we could possibly scrounge up for our wedding on photo, video, and your dress.
We
And
weren't counting my dress.
oh, right. Well, yeah. So, we'll get into that in a second. But basically, yeah, the whole story of our wedding was that it was just like we spent all the money on that. Everything else after that, we super DIY. So the food, the drinks, the the DJ, the cake. I mean, it was all people who chipped in, or it was super cheap DIY. Our food, we served pizza, and you might be thinking, oh, like fancy, like someone brought like a pizza oven on wheels and like made small pizzas there. Nope, we got it from Domino's. We took it out of the boxes and we put it on these trays, and these trays are still in our kitchen to this day because they have lasted longer and they still look amazing. And then as for drinks, I just went to Sam's Club and I got like $100 worth of cheap beer and the worst scotch that I've ever had in my entire life, and stuff to make rum and Coke, which was more of Courtney's thing. Courtney's not really a beer drinker. So yeah, that was kind of our crazy little wedding. It, like I said, we had people just pitching in left and right, setting up tables. It was all so DIY. The reception was at a clubhouse for a friend who, has a neighborhood that has like a community clubhouse that you can rent out. So it was all pretty crazy. So I guess since we're already on the topic of our wedding, I kind of plan to do this later, but we can kind of jump to it now. I want to talk about our top 3 things that we liked or that we would do again, I guess, of the wedding planning process. Top 3 dislikes, and things that we just hated doing, and then kind of summarize what we learned. So again, I've been talking these people's ears off, so why don't you say some words for a while?
One thing that I really liked and that I wouldn't change is the way that we formatted the day, even though it was not the norm. And I think that part of the reason that we did it that way is because of talking to people who had already gotten married, which is kind of the idea of this podcast in some ways. Is if you're planning a wedding, you've never done it before, you're gaining insight from other people. And that's how we came up with that, because we were looking at a more traditional way of, finding a venue and doing all the things in one place with all the people from start to finish. And I talked to somebody who told me that if they could do it over, they would split the day up and have the ceremony be small and intimate and have the reception just be a more relaxed party. And I thought, well, that sounds great. I'm not exactly the most extroverted person, and I like the idea of a small group. And so that was how we kind of came to that decision of having the ceremony in the morning, the reception at night, having them be basically 2 separate events, but on the same day. And yeah, I wouldn't change that. I really, really liked that we did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd second that. I'd say that was also kind of like the thing that weirded people out the most. We had a lot of people in our lives that were just kind of like very confused at all of our wedding decisions. And it was kind of hard to take that criticism at the time, but that's the big thing, is that obviously everyone's different. Some people want to just have that big expensive wedding at a hotel or at a like at a venue where everything's taken care of, and I totally understand that, and they don't have to worry about anything, and they've that's where they want to spend their money. Like I said, if you don't care about video and you don't care about photos, or you don't care about, having the most expensive dress, or you don't care about an expensive engagement ring, it's whatever, put the money where you think you'll really value it. We're going to take a break real quick because our cat has jumped up on the table. His name's Jasper, and he's adorable.
Say hi to the people.
He doesn't care that we're trying to record a podcast. He just wants to hang out. Honestly, he's kind of chilling now.
You can stay there if you're going to be good.
All right, you gonna chill out? Okay, he looks like he's gonna just chill.
If we don't antagonize him, he'll be
okay. All right, cool. Just relax. I know it's all fancy looking. You want to play with all the cords. Just relax. Good cat. Okay. Anyway, so the biggest thing, big note of what I'm trying to say here is, just do what you want. Do what you like. Just stop caring what people think. We did that as much as we could, and we still managed to care a little too much until afterwards, when we went, why did we care so much? And once we finally just got married, we were like, it wasn't even like there were a bunch of people that were just like bankrolling the wedding that we had to do what they said. It was just people that we just wanted for some reason to make them happy, and we realized that it wasn't important, that all that was important is us, and us getting married. And I still remember some of the people that were kind of making us doubt and everything, and about our planning process and whatnot. They asked like, well, we were going over the guest list, and they were like, well, who do you really need there? I was like, who do you definitely want to have there? And I said, me and Courtney and the officiant. And I meant it. I was like, if that's all the people that were there, that'd be enough. And they came back with, well, you also need 2 witnesses. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I need the 2 witnesses as well. But yeah, that's the big thing. It's your wedding. Do what you want. Absolutely. Don't care about anything else. Don't worry about it. This is like the one wedding you're ever going to have. Hopefully that's the goal anyway. But yeah, just do what you want.
Yeah. And to a point, I mean, a lot of the times people will say things in love because they really believe they have good insight to give. And, you know, I would say with that, take it with a grain of salt. And because it might end up being a really good suggestion, and that's not, you know.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think you should be able to take counsel, you know, for sure. That's really important, having your ears and eyes open. But at the end of the day, when you've made the decision and you rolled the dice and you've said, you know, and you've seen where the chips are going to land in other metaphors, then, you know, at that point, you should just, you know, kind of stick to your guns. And I literally am speaking in metaphors.
Another metaphor.
Yeah. No, you should just, you should, once the decision is final, then kind of put whatever the detractors say out of your mind. But yeah, you're absolutely.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
You just, you know, I think that is something that I learned a lot of that I've just taken into life, that I learned through the planning process, was just to know, like, I feel at peace with this. I know that this is the right thing for me and for us. And, you know, just leaving it at that at a certain point. You know what's best for you at the end of the day if you feel at peace about it. I think that's the most important thing. 100%.
100%. What was the one thing you would change about your wedding day?
Well, I was sick, so I mean, if I had the power to change that, I would change that.
Yeah. Totally. I feel like that's a really big fear for a lot of brides is they just don't want to get sick and they don't want it to rain if it's outdoors. Those are like the two big things.
It didn't rain, but it did kind of drizzle at our ceremony.
If it had been pouring, I honestly would have been fine.
It would have been fine.
I mean, I would have been a little worried for my grandma, but and your grandma.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean,
it would have been fine.
You would have looked pretty hot in a soaking wet wedding dress, you know.
Wow.
Oh yeah. For me, there was a point in the evening where everybody wanted to line up and take pictures with us on their phones or with the photographer. And I was just like, I could not, like, I just wanted to go dance and I just wanted to dance and drink and eat and, you know, just be merry. But people
be married.
Yeah. Be merry and be married. Usually I'm the one with the horrible puns. This is your turn. You dweeb. What's wrong with you? But
I've been living with you too long.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Yeah. But no, yeah, I just wanted to dance and everyone wanted to take pictures. And I was like, and I get that. But also I don't get that because I never look at pictures that I take on my phone. And so, yeah, that was the big thing. I remember afterwards I was like, you know, you were like, oh, I didn't really get to dance. And I was all like, I'm upset. That sucks.
I felt like I didn't get to dance, not because of all the pictures, but more so because I felt the need, and this is where I wasn't taking my own advice and I was caring too much about everything else and everyone else. And I was really concerned about making sure that the things we had borrowed got back to the right people who were going home and making sure that everything got torn down correctly.
And people got paid.
And making sure people got paid and running around trying to find checks because I don't have a checkbook.
Yeah, totally.
And all of that. That was the thing that was the bigger deterrent. The picture thing didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, because those people, that was their picture that they had. We had like all our nice photographer pictures, which is what we're posting.
Right.
That phone picture that you might never look at is what they're posting. So I can see why that matters more to other people.
Yeah, I guess I forget about social media, even though that's like literally what I'm like supposed to be doing, you know, now. But yeah, as far as like posting something, I just would never do that. I would never go to someone's wedding and take a picture on my phone with them and then I guess post that. I guess that's probably more normal. I'm probably the weird one. I think I'm the weird one here. Whatever. But I just wanted to dance. I think that's the moral of the story.
You're a little party animal.
Yeah, you know me. Bad dancing, bad jokes. Everything's bad.
Good video though.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. You're a little biased, but I do appreciate it. Okay, so let's take a minute and answer some more Instagram questions. We
can circle back to the one that got us on that train that we didn't actually answer.
Yeah. Why don't you hand me some more whiskey while you're at it?
Oh dear.
Right. Yeah. So back. Yeah. Good point. Back to the
wedding planner.
Yeah. Should you have a wedding planner or not? It depends. Like I said, it's really all about what you value. So for us, we really did luck out. We had such a... I'm just going to pour this really quick. Little ASMR for you. Yeah. So we really lucked out because we had tons of helpful people. And so if you can't rely on that, and you can't rely on a, whole family of, that's like the family of your best friend to provide you with a gorgeous mountain forest venue, and you don't have a friend who can provide you a cheap, affordable clubhouse, and
childhood second mother.
Yeah, and you don't want to have pizza, and you want to have steak and chicken masala, and you want to have all this stuff. But it's funny that I mentioned that because I think that's what my sister had for her wedding, Rebecca.
I was gonna say what?
It's really weird that I remember that because that was when I was a kid. But anyway, it's just, I would say that if you're not a planner, or if you would rather enjoy your wedding day and you know that planning everything yourself is going to stress you out, then I would say it's absolutely worth it to whatever a planner costs, just to eat that cost and to actually enjoy your wedding and the planning process and not be completely stressed out and terrorized by your own worst fears and everything. So that's what I would say. What are your thoughts?
Our middle ground of that, I think, would be, do you have a really organized friend who's into planning like me?
Yeah, true. I mean, if you want to, exactly, there's always different options. You can go with someone who's been planning for 20 years. You could go with somebody who, like you said, who's really organized, who likes planning, who likes putting things together. With that in mind, it's kind of along the similar lines of you get what you pay for with, video as well. It's like if you have a friend who's really good at videography and they've done a bunch of cool promos for local coffee shops and that kind of thing, which is, the sort of thing that I was doing. I was doing small business promos before I really got into weddings. And it's like, if you want to have them shoot your wedding for cheap or for little to no cost, then you have to keep in mind that there's a lot of things that happen on wedding days, especially for the video and photo team, that if you're not an experienced videographer, then you're not going to know the potential things that could happen that could mess up. So you don't know if you're going to come away with good pictures and audio and video of all the important moments. You don't know if you're going to have your first kiss because the camera might die and they don't realize they need to have multiple cameras with multiple batteries. I mean, all kinds of things could go wrong.
Yeah, it's just all about what's most important to you.
Yeah, exactly. So another question we have is, what do you do when a bride falls in love with the dress, but the family is not supportive? And that comes from Jacqueline with the Experience Photography. She's an amazing photographer here in Sacramento, and she's a good friend of ours in a lot of ways. And I had the privilege of being the videographer, or we had the privilege of being her videographers for her wedding day. And we just love her to death, and she's awesome.
She's going to be on this podcast as well, I believe.
Yes, she will be. Yeah, she'll be, I think, on the next one or the one after that. And we'll be talking about...
Keep a lookout.
Yep. Look out for that. We'll be talking about photography, videography, all kinds of stuff. But she wants to know, it sounds like she's talking to you and your experience in the bridal shop industry, and what happens when a bride falls in love with a dress and her family says no or ixnay, and, go from there. What do you think?
That's really hard, especially when the family is paying for the dress, because there could be a lot of reasons for objection. So if the family's paying for a dress and the bride falls in love with it, she loses a bit of her say sometimes, depending on the family. And I think that's also where, when you go to your bridal appointments, your stylist is your ally, and that's where you really want to connect with your stylist and utilize them, because that's part of their job, is to be on your team. And so they know how to, read the faces and listen to the objections and hear where people are coming from and try and mediate that well. So utilize your stylist. If you are loving a dress and your family that's there with you is saying it's just not it for reasons A, B, or C, talk with your stylist about it, and odds are they'll be able to help you figure something out, or even find something on the floor that you might love just as well, if not better, because of the same features that your family might also think is good. There's a lot of ways you can partner with them. So utilize your stylist. And the other thing too is that, you know, that's more so from you're not paying for it, so you can only, you know, go so far. I think definitely it's good to be honest as well. And if you really love the dress, then it's, you know, I think that you need to like say that. And so I think it's something that we talked about. But if you know, if it's someone's really shooting you down for one reason or another and not listening to you, and it's seeming like, you know, you don't know if you can actually make this happen, I think it's worth it to look at the options. But
right.
Yeah, that's really, really hard. I think that, yeah, from the perspective of working in a bridal shop, though, that's where, you know, we're on the bride's team. And so if we have to kind of combat the family a little bit with her on her behalf, you know, that's part of what we're there for. So.
Yeah. Well, what about if money's no object, but it's the bride likes the dress, and like, say, mom or an aunt or a cousin or a sister is kind of like, oh, I don't know. I mean, the trim's kind of, you know, I don't know. I don't know dress lingo. I won't even attempt to try. I was going to say the trim, the lace. I don't know. But yeah. Oh, yeah, the swastika that's on the back. I don't like that. That's probably justified. Fair. Yeah, fair. But
if they straight up just don't like it,
exactly,
then, you know.
You know what I'm going to say is like,
again, it's like,
it's not your dress, homie.
It's not your dress, yeah. So, again, that's where, like, you know, if you need some backup, again, utilize your stylist, because it's like, they don't really have too much to lose. Like, if you're on their side and they're on your side and you're partnering, you know, they don't have a whole lot to lose with your family, because they don't need your family to like them. They just need you to like them. And so they have a little more leeway to kind of
push
back with your family and say, like, okay, well, it's not your dress. It's not your day. It's not about you. And I think that sometimes, like, especially with parents, and I think it comes from a good place, but with a lot of things, a wedding dress being, you know, could be one of them, they'll have this vision in their head of what they've always seen for you, and it's hard to let that go. And I can't speak as a parent because I'm not, but I have, you know, I've talked to a lot of parents, and I feel like I get the idea of it.
Totally.
And just having this vision for your kid their whole life, and then seeing it not play out the way you thought. And so part of it is just kind of knowing how to talk through that and, like, empathize as best you can with the parent or the grandma or whoever, and just, you know, say, you know, I think if you validate someone's feelings, that goes a long way. So validating, like, I understand this isn't what you had in mind for me, and you've had this vision, and I love that, but I also really love this dress, and this is why, and this is how it makes me feel, and, you know, and just kind of go from there, because I think that a lot of times that's all that someone really needs to kind of get back on your side, is just to feel like they're being heard.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's funny that you mentioned just kind of like the vision and everything, because I think the biggest problem with wedding videography that I could think of with most of the clients that I deal with is if the parents or someone older is paying for it, then a lot of times they just aren't used to the idea of a wedding video, because in the 80s or the 70s or the 90s, you know, even the 90s, it's like wedding videos were either not there and non-existent, or they were just bad. And they weren't, and they were just terrible quality, and there aren't the amazing, like, cinematic, like, film level productions that you can get these days.
Yeah, it was a documentary.
Exactly. I know, exactly. It was a documentary, or it was just like an awful, like, mid-2000s MTV music video that was, like, oversaturated and, you know, it made the bride look orange or green or both. And so it's like, I think the biggest thing is that, like, I remember getting on the phone with, you know, a potential client and her mom or her aunt or whoever was paying for it, and you know, she was looking at the video and kind of looking at what the package had, and she didn't understand that I was doing a, you know, like a 5-minute highlight video that showcases all the important parts of the day from beginning to end. Little bits, basically like a mini movie of your day. But then also I include the full ceremony, the full speeches, all the dances, everything in a separate video. She thought she was just getting the 5-minute video. And, she looked at the price for that and was like, all that, and you're going to spend all that time there and record all that, and all you get is 5 minutes. And I went, well, no, you're going to get the whole thing. I promise. And there was a breakdown in communication when I was talking between, the bride and when she communicated to the aunt or the mom, whoever it was. And so once we got on the phone and we talked about it, and she was able to go, oh, okay, there's a lot more to this. A lot of times it's just not communicated well, or, there's a misunderstanding of what exactly is included. And a lot of times once we have a conversation, I've had plenty of conversations with people and they've been like, I just don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's, the people who basically are writing the checks, they're kind of giving me the no. And then we all get on the phone together and we're able to talk it out. And once they see it, it's like they have it in the budget. They have, it's not like they're taking food off the table to pay for this wedding video. It's like the budget is there, but the vision and the understanding is not there. And so once we're all on the same page, then it's kind of like, oh yeah, well then I definitely want that. And then they're happy to write the check. And so that's the biggest thing. And then sometimes, and to be completely fair, sometimes they say that sounds really good, but it's just not in the budget, and that's totally fine. I totally understand that as well. Again, I'm not about being salesy or anything. It's all about just, I want you to have all the information possible to make the best decision possible for all the people that are involved. So, sometimes that means that we end up working together, and sometimes that means that we don't. And that's totally okay. But again, it's all about everyone understanding what the bride wants, what the groom wants, what people are willing to do to help them out in their generosity and everything. And then kind of weighing everything once all the information is on the table. And, the biggest thing there is that just communication is key. All right. Well, I feel like we have talked about quite a bit, and we have given a lot of information about ourselves and answered all the questions that we have. And so we have nothing else to talk about. And also this cat on our table is so gosh darn cute that I just want to cuddle him and play with him. So we are going to go ahead and wrap it up for the first ever episode of insert the name here podcast. But we, important things to say, we will be releasing these podcasts every Thursday. And we will be talking about wedding planning, weddings, our personal experiences. We'll be inviting people on the show. And ultimately, this is just a podcast for you. If you're planning a wedding and you just need people who are on your team, on your side, we are here to be those people for you. And of course, if you need a wedding video, then you can reach out to me at chrishardwickmedia@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. I would love to see if we're a good fit for each other. And overall, I would love to just give you as many resources and information as possible so that you can make the best decisions and have the best wedding day that anyone has ever had, ever. I like to shoot for the stars. All right. With that said, we will see you next Thursday, or hear you next Thursday, or I guess you'll hear us next Thursday. I don't know what we're going to be doing next Thursday. Probably just watching anime or something. I don't know.
Gosh. Or Disney.
Yeah, or Disney WandaVision on Fridays. But yeah, we love you guys. We thank you for listening, and we will talk to you in the future at some point, hopefully. Okay. Cool. I'm going to stop talking.
Excellent.
Goodbye.
Bye.